If you've struggled for years to hit enough topspin, then you've clicked on exactly the right lesson. I just worked with a student who started with this forehand. Watch and listen carefully. Just 10 minutes later, after doing the special drill I'm about to show you, her forehand looked like this. Watch and listen carefully. During this lesson, I was working with another young coach on her teaching skills, and our student came in and told the other coach that she's been trying to hit with a lot of topspin for as long as she's been playing tennis and taking lessons, and she just can't do it. In response, this young coach that I was working with initially told her, make sure to drop the racket head lower, relax your hand and your wrist, and get that racket head down below the level of the ball. The student went back to try that recommendation and continued to hit with just the same amount of flat drive as she was doing before. Next, the young coach called the student up to the net and said, okay, this time focus on bending your knees and getting down lower so that we can hit with more topspin. Again, the student went back to the baseline, hit some more forehands, and they were exactly the same as they were before. The young coach asked the student to come back up to the net again, and this time the young coach said, okay, let's just try to exaggerate this as much as possible. Like right now, maybe you're making like a 2 or a 3 out of 10 with topspin. Let's aim way higher, try to hit with way more curve, try to do a 10 out of 10 topspin. So the student went back to the baseline, hit some more forehands, and again, they were exactly the same shape, exactly the same sound, exactly the same amount of topspin as she's always been hitting. At this point, I walked over to the young coach and I asked her, so is anything different? Like, has the player actually changed anything? Is she hitting with more topspin? And the young coach said, no, she's not. And so I said, well, we need to make a drastic change here. We need to get this student to do something wildly different, completely different. And so the young coach said, okay, that makes sense, but I'm not sure what to do. Can you please show me? And that's when we dove into the drills. Step 1 was I asked the student to come all the way in within arm's length of the net, and imagine that she was making contact with the ball right around the height of the net tape, and use the net as an obstacle to keep her swing path from going forward and instead focus on going upward. I'm asking her to imagine that there's actually like a wall in the place of the net, like a brick wall is right in front of her, and she has to trace the path of the brick wall. So in other words, hit the ball at net height, but then don't touch the wall, which is right behind where the ball is. The goal here is to get her to exaggerate a very vertical path. And initially, as I gave her that analogy to think about, she did pretty well. But after doing several practice swings, watch how the tip of her racket starts to break through that red line again. And now she's starting to go past the point of the net because her habit is to go forward, 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 which is why she's always struggled to make a lot of curve and spin. And so I decided to go over and give her another obstacle. I put my racket right in line with the net and told her, okay, we can't hit the net, we can't hit my racket. And so you can see now she's, respecting the fact that there's another object there in her way, and her path gets more vertical. And all this is doing is giving her the sensation of what it would feel like to actually hit the ball with a purely vertical path, which is the other end of the spectrum from what she's used to and comfortable with. Here's a quick visual so that you can hopefully understand this with a little bit more nuance. This is the ball we're about to hit. The red arrow represents the path of the racket at the instant that contact is made. The ball's only on the strings for a tiny, tiny fraction of a second. And if when that happens, the path of the racket is traveling in this direction, there will be no end-over-end rotation to curve the ball and bring it back into the court. This is a flat swing path. Now, our student's swing path wasn't totally flat. She was making some rotation, just not enough to significantly curve and bend the ball as it flew through the air, which you saw from her original swings. Her swing path was at about this angle as she made contact. World-class tennis players, when they hit a typical rally ball back and forth from the baseline, are swinging upwards at about a 45-degree angle, which means about half of their racket head speed is going past the ball to make it rotate and bend, and the other half of their racket head speed is going forward to give the ball power and energy and depth. The reason why I'm putting the net and then my racket in the way of my student's swing path is to try to get her to go way over to the other end of the spectrum. In real life, this would be a very exaggerated swing, but it's critical to exaggerate when you're stuck in an old habit and you can't break out of it. After enough good practice swings where I felt confident that my student was able to actually do it and she understood, I had her actually hit a ball with the net still in the way. And I want you to watch her reaction after hitting this very first ball that I dropped with the net in the way, forcing this upward vertical path. Watch her face after she hits this ball. You can just see this is why coaches coach. For this kind of like light bulb moment where she's obviously excited about, holy cow, look at what the ball just did. And it's all because of the restrictions that I put on her, which are forcing this very vertical swing path. It's the path of the racket that determines, is this going to be a flat shot or a topspin shot or a heavy topspin shot or a slice shot, a backspin shot. If you're working hard on your game, but you're not hitting your forehand with as much power as you'd like, make sure to go to forehandpower.com, where I'll show you for free how to add 15 miles per hour to your forehand in just 15 minutes of practice by following some simple step-by-step drills, just like you're seeing here to work on topspin, except they're focused on racket head speed and acceleration and hitting the ball significantly harder without trying significantly harder. It's all about using your body powerfully, athletically, efficiently. And I'll show you at forehandpower.com how to do that. The training's totally free. Go check it out now at forehandpower.com. Next, I had my student go back to the service line, do some practice shadow swings, and then receive an underhand toss from the other coach while focusing on replicating this same upward vertical swing path. And at this point, I'm starting to ask my student to identify different sounds of contact. The difference between a flatter shot, which has more of like a pop or like a boom kind of sound to it, and a topspin shot is a topspin shot has more of a click sound, or I don't like the word brush because it's been so overused that doesn't really mean anything anymore. But what's actually happening when the racket makes contact with the ball for that very brief split second, and the racket's energy is aggressively traveling vertically past where the ball is, the ball grabs the strings and the strings shift out of position and then slide and snap back into position again. And that's what creates that unique clicking sound. Here's the contrast between her old forehand, which is on the left, and on the right, this is one of her nice click topspin forehand swings when she was on the service line doing the training. I've drawn a red circle at the point of contact on each of them so that you can see the difference between where the ball is being made contact with, which on both is a little bit below waist height. So just track the trajectory here of her racket. Do you see how the upward element of the swing is well short of 45 degrees, which again is what most world-class players are swinging in terms of the path of the racket? And watch how through contact, watch how her racket pushes out forwards towards the other side of the net. She's breaking that wall that I asked her to visualize during the training. And then on the right side, if I go back a little bit, look at how much lower and how much more steeply her racket is now coming up towards contact. This is a huge contrast compared to what she was doing before. Now the path of her racket up to contact is doing something more like this. And through the point of contact, she's no longer pushing out so much towards the net. In other words, this swing on the right has much more vertical energy, and the swing on the left has much more lateral energy, which is why previously she was unable to hit with any significant curve or bend. And now after doing these couple of exercises that only took us 10 minutes, her path is much more vertical, and we're seeing the curve and we're seeing the spin as a result. If you're a passionate, motivated tennis player that feels like you've been stuck for a while, then I need you to listen very carefully to the next couple sentences I'm about to say. This huge transformation for this student took place over the span of 10 minutes, and she's been taking lessons. She played varsity high school, she played club tennis in college, she's received countless hours of coaching, and I asked her afterwards, hey, how many times have you been asked to do those same things that my young coach was asking her to do. Drop the racket head, like bend your knees, swing low to high, like brush the ball. And she said, probably literally a million times. I've been told all those other things. And she continued to hit flat, 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 year after year after year after year. If you're motivated and you're passionate about improvement, but you keep hearing the same words, the same phrases, the same analogies, coach after coach after coach, lesson after lesson after lesson, and you're getting the same results, it's time to stop the madness. You need to step outside your comfort zone and go way to the other end of the spectrum, exaggerate something if you want to actually get fundamentally different results. Hopefully you don't hear me as being like critical to this young coach at all. She did an incredible job. She's just at the very beginning of her coaching journey, learning how to do these kind of techniques. Remember, if you want to add 15 miles per hour to your forehand in just 15 minutes of practice, make sure to go to forehandpower.com, where I'll show you step-by-step drills just like these to optimize for racket head speed and acceleration so you can hit the ball significantly harder in a very short period of time, and I'll also show you in that free training how to keep it in play too. Just go to forehandpower.com. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.